Hello everyone and welcome. This is Dawn. I hope you're having a good day. I'm back with another Christmas card. I'm going to be making a super quick card. I feel like all cards don't need to be elaborate all the time, so this one is pretty simple to make. I'm using the FaDoodle Holly stamp set. This stamp set is great. It has 4 holly stamps in 4 different sizes, which is really nice, and it has 10 sentiments and a border stamp. I'll be pairing it up with the Shaker Maker Rectangles die set. I'm going to use it to make a border around the card. So let's get started. To save some time, I stamped a bunch of the hollies out with a black ink, and then I die cut them with my brother's Scan and Cut. I cut out a bunch of them because I didn't know how many I wanted to use on this card, and also when I use my brother's Scan and Cut, I like to cut out a bunch of the images at the same time so I can have them on hand so I don't have to keep using the machine just to cut out 2 images. It just saves time in the long run. I also die cut 3 of the large frames from some white cardstock. I'm going to set everything aside for later. Next, I'm going to use my MISTI stamping tool to stamp the border because it's a long stamp and I want to make sure I don't mess it up. I'm using the center cutout from the frame. I'm going to put the stamp as close to the edge as I can, but I'm not going to go crazy to line it up perfectly because it's a wavy kind of stamp and it's meant to leave an uneven line. That's the fun of these FaDoodle stamps. After I stamp one side, I just flip it over and I stamp the other side so they're matching. Now I'm going to stamp the sentiment. I'm using the Happy Holidays stamp, and there's a little trick to help with lining up where the sentiment should go. I just place the frame over the rectangle, and then I take some of the holly and I just kind of place it, where I think they're going to go, and that will give me an idea of where to put the sentiment. Once I have the sentiment where I want it to go, I stamp it with some black ink a couple of times just because I like it to be crisp and dark. Next, I adhere all 3 frames together. This will add some dimension to the card so it doesn't look so flat. And then I adhere the frame to a piece of white cardstock that I cut to 5.5 by 8.5 and I scored it at 4 1/4. I take the middle piece of the frame with the sentiment on it and I adhere it in the middle of the frame, and the card is basically completely assembled at this point, just the holly is missing. Now I'm going to color my holly with my new Caran d'Ache colored pencils. I had been saving for a while to get them and I'm totally in love with them. I only used them once so far and I'm amazed at how well they blend. I have the 76 count colored pencils, but I personally think you could get away with a smaller pack of them. I'm just going to quickly show you all the colors it comes with. It has 3 trays of colors and 2 blending pencils. I picked a red color and 2 different colored green pencils. And then I'm going to be using my Gamsol to blend it with, along with some new pencil blending stumps that I got. I'm going to quickly go through the coloring. I'm not going to show all of it since it's basically all the same. I quickly color in the berries, and then I dip the blending pencil in the Gamsol and I just basically rub it on the color and it blends so smooth and it's so fast to do. I don't know if you can see how nice it smoothed out. So I went ahead and I colored in all of my berries so they're all colored since I don't know how many of the hollies I'm going to be using yet. Then I put a little bit of the green color down and I go ahead and smooth it out with the Gamsol. Now there are different size blending pencils. I used a really small one for the berries and now I'm using a medium size one for the leaves since it's a bigger area to color. Now when I first started coloring these leaves, I kept putting a little color down, then blending them a little at a time, but by the time I was halfway through, I started just putting both colors down at the same time and blending them together. I found I liked the look of it better this way and it was much quicker. So I do want to mention I'm not an expert at colored pencils. I'm just doing what I like to do and what works for me. Here I'm showing how I just basically colored the whole area and then I just blended both of the colors together. It's super quick to do. It took me like 2 minutes to color one of the hollies in. For me, coloring with colored pencils and Gamsol is easier than Copic markers. That's why I invested in this big box. I'm hoping to really use them more than I use my Copic markers. Plus, there's something really satisfying to me to put some colored pencil down and watching it transform into something totally different when you blend it together. But that's just me. I like things like that. Okay, so I decided to go with one big holly and one medium-sized holly. Now let's do some embossing. I'm going to be using an embossing pen. It's basically the same thing as Versamark ink. It's a clear sticky ink. I'm just going to rub it wherever I want on the holly leaves. You can put as much or as little as you want. You could use an embossing powder bag if you want, but I didn't feel it was necessary since I really don't care where the embossing powder ends up on the leaves. Then I'm using my favorite holiday embossing powder, the Snowflake Tinsel. I just poured on the holly leaves, and it's only going to stick where I rubbed the embossing pen. As you can see, it didn't cover the entire leaf, and it just went where I put the embossing pen. I do this to the other holly leaf as well. When my heat tool is good and hot, I use tweezers to hold them in place, and then I heat emboss them. Make sure not to hold it too close to the paper or in one place for too long so you don't burn your paper. I put foam tape on the back of the holly leaves, and then I adhere them to the front of the card. And to finish off the card, I'm using my favorite confetti. This calls for confetti. I'm using the black matte finish. I put them where I want them to go on the card front, and then I adhere them with some liquid glue. And that's basically going to complete my card for today. This card is super fast to make. It's simple, but I think it still has a lot of class. I want to thank you for joining me on the Whimsy Stamps YouTube channel. I would love for you to leave a comment below and let me know what you think of the card. Be sure to subscribe to the Whimsy Stamps YouTube channel and their other social media platforms so you don't miss out on any upcoming releases and great inspirational videos. Also, check out their website for all their new releases. And as always, thanks for stopping by and have yourself a wonderful day.